All right, you guys, I'm a little bit embarrassed to even show you this video because this turned out so bad, but I want to show you my plot screen fail so that you guys don't make the same mistake, and as a good reminder for me so that I never forget and I never make this mistake again myself. As you can see around me, there's a few little sprigs of sorghum, this plot screen trying to come in, but it's mostly just swallowed up and overtaken by these native grasses out here. There's one main reason why this plot screen failed for me this year. Now I'm in a bad spot right here. I picked one of the worst spots I could find to illustrate the point of what happened. But there are some other areas around the food plot I'm going to show you. You can maybe see it behind me on the other side of the food plot. There are some areas that worked out okay. But the main reason that this didn't work out, well, there's maybe two, but is essentially I didn't have a good plan in place to take care of the native grass that was going to try to come up and compete with my sorghum and my plot screen. And that's what we need to talk about, is you need to have a plan of action in place to make sure that this grass right here that I'm standing in doesn't overtake and overwhelm your plot screen. So this is what I planted right here behind me, or the plot screen that I'm standing in. I don't even know if you can say that. Is the Frigid Forage blend. So this is what the bag looked like. I'm actually doing a comparison this year. I planted some of the Frigid Forage and then I planted some of the Northwoods Whitetail blend. That's the blend that Jeff Sturgis promotes on his channel. But I'm not trying to promote Frigid Forage, by the way. I bought this with my own money. I'm just letting you know what I planted. I made no money off of it. So the reason that the grasses were allowed to get out of control in my case here and overtake my plot screen in a lot of these areas is because, first off, this was a first-year food plot. So you can't really see it, but behind the camera you can see what this field used to look like. Just a completely wide open, barren field full of native grasses and forbs, maybe some old residual weeds left over from, this used to be farmed, oh, I would bet over 30 years ago according to the old historical aerial photos. So this was just a fallow grass field, and I broke it this spring. I have my little plot over there that I broke with my walk behind rototiller, and then the big food plot behind me that I broke with an industrial tiller, a big farming setup. So the fact that it's a first year food plot, and as you guys know who have been following me and watching my channel, you know that I try to limit or eliminate altogether the use of herbicides on here. It's just a choice I want to make. And so that would have been one way to take care of this grass, was to just nuke it with herbicide. I didn't want to do that. So there's some other things you can do if you don't want to use herbicide, but ultimately what I ended up doing was planting this plot screen in, I believe it was May 26th this year. Now we had a really cold spring, and so that didn't help things, okay? This plot screen, this sorghum and Egyptian wheat loves heat. And that's why, like some other spots where it did take, it's growing really well right now. It's early August when I'm filming this video, but this grass is built for this climate. It's adapted to this climate. It's been here forever, or maybe not forever, for a very long time, much longer than this sorghum has been. And this grass had a lot of residual root pieces and sod clumps left over in the soil. When I broke this ground this spring, there was a whole bunch of roots in the ground that sent up new grass leaders. Now, there would have been a couple ways to deal with this a lot better than the way I did. And the first way is just to plant later. So, and I'm going to show you guys my other plot screen that I planted on June 10th. So again, the stuff that worked out well, June 10th, I'm going to show you that in a second, compared to this was May 26th. Huge difference, okay? So because I tilled this so early and we had a cool spring, a lot of these roots and grasses were not effectively killed off by my tilling. And once they came up with the sorghum seed, they just surpassed it and overwhelmed it. So I could have planted this later, and that's what I should have done. And that's what I'm going to do next year. And again, trying to time it with the rain like all my food plot seeds. But the plot screen over there that I'm going to show you guys that I planted on June 10th, is coming up way better than this. And it's a good learning lesson, something for you guys to think about, something for me to think about. The other thing I could have done was use some type of soil or some type of chemical to, like a pre-emergent or some type of, you know, I could have come through, let this grass get up a little ways, grow to a certain height, spray it with herbicide, and then plant my plot screen. But as I said, I just don't want to use the herbicide, so that's not an option for me here in my case. For the purposes of this video, I just wanted to take a minute to talk to you guys about the problems that I'm having here, and it's pretty clear to me now the mistake that I made. And I think, you know, had this not been a first-year food plot, I don't think it would have been this bad either. I think every year that I work this soil and kill this native grass around me here, I think I'm going to eliminate it more and more. And so my hope is that next year I'll have another year worth of tilling in on this, and then I'm also going to plant it later, say around that first week of June, maybe as late into the second week of June. I'm in the northern half of Minnesota, where I'm at here with my private land, and so think about that where you're at in the country in the growing seasons. But I think that because it needs so much heat, and looking at what is happening on my other plot screen that's coming in very well that was planted on June 10th, I think I'm going to be safe in that first week or two of June next year for planting. So let's go take a look at the other plot screen that was planted on June 10th, and I'll show you guys how that's coming in. Okay, so this right here, and what you can see behind me, is the stretch of plot screen that I planted on June 10th. So timing is huge, you guys, and the reason that I think this one is doing so much better, you can just see the difference. It's got a better color, it's so much more uniform, and it's that actual wall that we're looking for in the plot screen. And by waiting another 2.5 weeks to plant this area of plot screen, what ended up happening was the native grasses, so all of this stuff that you see out here coming up and trying to compete with my plot screen, this all started coming up late May, and in that first week of June it all started to grow, and this whole thing was green with native grass. When I came in and tilled it that much later in June, it really set that native grass back. And what it did was it allowed these sorghum seeds, these sorghum plants, to really get a jump and have a chance at getting up. And like right now, when I'm looking at this, I would say this is even having a bit of a smothering effect and shading out effect on just the ground underneath it right now. So it's further helping to inhibit that weed growth. So this was a big learning lesson for me. This was actually the first year that I had planted plot screen. And so I'm keeping notes, I'm making these videos, obviously I'm sharing with you guys what's happening on my farm here, but pretty important lesson here to learn. And thank goodness I put this band in, because this is my most critical zone. That neighbor's house that's the closest human activity to my food plot is over this way. So I have this screen on this end of the food plot just to serve as, number one, a visual barrier, but also I think I'll get some audible barrier in there as well, where it might kind of knock down the amount of sound. And I mean, this house is a little ways away, but if they're out there, you know, cooking, smoking a chicken or something in the backyard, having a few beers, having a good time, and they're out laughing and hollering, if there's a deer out in this plot, I just want to create as much of a barrier between the deer and that as possible. And so this was a big lesson for myself to learn. I hope you guys learned something from it. Timing is everything on this plot screen, you guys. This still has a long ways to grow. It's like I say, it's early August, so this stuff is going to get, I'm hoping, head higher. I'm in real poor sandy soils here, so I know I'm not going to get the full potential out of this grass or out of this plot screen that someone might get in real good fertile soil country might get. That's the other thing I should mention is I did fertilize with 19 on the early planted plot screen, and then this late planted plot screen. I fertilized in both cases on the day I seeded, and then I also followed up about 3 weeks later on both of them and gave them another shot of fertilizer. So that's probably part of the reason why I had such bad weed growth over there, was because I was fertilizing. But because of these loamy sand soils. It doesn't hold moisture very well and it's low in fertility. I just wanted to give this plot screen a boost of something to help it out. So I'm really happy with this area of plot screen. I'm not so happy with the plot screen over there. As I said before, there are some areas that did come in okay, and I'm going to be following up with that video, the comparison video between the two types of plot screen. Again, I just wanted to show you guys the fail that I had. I'm going to give myself an F on that section of plot screen back there where I showed you. That I'm giving myself the worst grade possible, because that's unacceptable. I mean, that you may as well not even have a plot screen if it looks like that. So this over here, much happier with this area. Timing is key. Timing is very important, as I'm learning with this plot screen. So I hope you guys learned something from the video. If you did, hit the thumbs up. Think about subscribing to my channel. And hey, fall's on its way, you guys. I hope you're getting ready. I hope you're having fun. Until the next time, take care.